Good afternoon, Crimson Tide Nation, and welcome to the 14th edition of Crimson Tide Live right here on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, where we will be going over the takeaways from what happened on Saturday night against the Oklahoma Sooners. What happened, man? That's going to be the question. And we're going to be going over quite a lot about the Iron Bowl and our take on what's going to be going on there. And of course, we'll be going over our top 5 Iron Bowls of all time, according to us. And of course, we'll be having some special guests joining us. You will be seeing Kyle Loomis from E2C Network and Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine in just a little bit. And let me tell you something, everybody, it's going to be a wild ride. How you doing today, good buddy?
Doing well. Still in a state of shock, state of confusion, maybe a state of anger. All of the above.
Yeah, it's put
Made
us
no
in
sense.
it's not what we know, is what we don't know that's got us all angry, because we don't know what's really going to happen until Tuesday night. But you know, something that's not really going to make us angry, make us all happy. I could tell you a little something that can make the college football fan really happy. The disputed national champions of the 90s from Mark Rogers himself, where we go over what happened and we go during the 90s, how the decade changed sport, why the championship results should be questioned, how to critically think through the scenarios, and to appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, and outcomes that defined a decade of college football. Grab your copy of Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset by Mark Rogers himself now. And here to help us discuss what happened with Alabama, Oklahoma, and so much more on today's show. He is the editor of Touchdown Alabama, a very good friend of Alabama at the Voice of College Football Network. As you have seen him many, many times discussing the latest great takes of Alabama football, and you've seen him on the Paul Feinbaum show over the last 5 to 6 years. He is the one and only himself, Stephen M. Smith.
What's going on, man? Happy to be here, man. This is awesome. Excited to be joining you guys on a Monday. Yeah, Monday. And you wake up Sunday after what happened over the weekend, and thank goodness for me, I had some chicken nachos. Wife was really good to me after waking up after what in the world was that on Saturday, but I'm okay. I'm okay.
We're at that everything's fine moment where it's not fine.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, you give Oklahoma credit for the way they came out there. They played physical. They knew what they had to do. But at the same time, you look at Alabama and you go, this is the most Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team we've ever seen. This is an Alabama team that can go out there and beat Georgia. You beat Kirby Smart. This is an Alabama team that can go on the road to Baton Rouge and boat race LSU. But this is also a team that goes to Nashville, loses to Vanderbilt. Credit Vanderbilt's better than what they've ever been in the last 20 years or so. But you go on the road and you lose to Vandy. You go on the road to Knoxville and you lose to the Volunteers. And then you go up to Norman, Oklahoma, where you have no business losing to the Sooners, and you drop that one too. So it's a very perplexing season.
It's just been a mixed bag. It's like you said, 1 minute we're doing great against Georgia, next minute we're doing great against LSU, and we're falling apart against Vanderbilt. And we didn't even score a touchdown against the Sooners. And it was the first time since 2011 where we didn't even score a single touchdown. That was against LSU in that famous 2011 battle where it was the game of the century. Like, oh, man.
It's weird. And then, it's the first time since 2004 when you only score 3 points.
That's
The first-
insane.
the first time since 04 when you had Mike Shula as the head coach, where you score only 3 points. I believe your offensive coordinator at that time was Dave Rader. I think it was Dave Rader, and you only scored 3 points.
Yeah.
That's so horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. But well, here's I know it doesn't I don't want to belabor it too much because I'm going to talk about it later, but we did score a touchdown. They just threw a flag.
Yeah,
over and over and over, and
there was a touchdown, but apparently somebody was covered up. There was illegal touching happening, but there was nothing illegal about that. I mean, the guy wasn't covered up at all. I mean, the touchdown wouldn't change the outcome of the game, but it would have at least given a little bit more momentum. But it is what it is. DeBoer had a very, very intense conversation with the SEC officials today, Steve Shaw and his guys. So hopefully Shaw, talk some sense into his guys that he has officiating these games in this conference.
Yeah, I went through and I got a couple of clips that I looked at and that clearly show the mistake by the official and the way the biggest problem with the official was, I mean, how late he threw that flag. I mean, the ball was almost the play was almost over it was within half a second of being over, and then all of a sudden this flag flies out of his pocket. He's he's 30 yards away from the end zone just magically. And I don't know if somebody was screaming in his ear there on the sideline. He was covered. I don't know. You never know if somebody was screaming and then all of a sudden he may have had that moment where he thought about it. And I don't know, but clearly he was wrong. Hopefully he'll be reprimanded or whatever they do. I don't even know if they do that, but it was an ugly call. But I agree. Alabama got outplayed. Just watch the game. Tape doesn't lie. They always say in the big eye, that tape up there in the sky, the big eye don't lie.
Yeah, it was it was not up to Alabama standard at all. You couldn't stop the run, which was sad because coming into the game, you knew Oklahoma, the receivers injured. I think they're down to their second or third string running back, Xavier Robinson. And Jackson Arnold, who had struggled all year throwing the football, Brent Venables goes, okay, guys, we're just going to be physical with him. Go out there and just be physical with him. And that's what happened. They ran the ball for 257 yards. I mean, Jackson Arnold got 131. The running back had 107, 2 touchdowns. Bama could not win the edge at all. They played keep away. Even Alabama's offense kept giving the ball back with turnovers. So Bama came out flat. They came out flat at the absolute wrong time.
Yeah. Well, I went back and started just isolating plays and stuff like that. They did a lot of the old school counter tray, a lot of traps and things to that nature. And it was pretty much a game plan that one, we're going to run the ball against Alabama. And then number two, we're going to make Jalen Milroe beat us. We're going to make him throw. They stopped the run, and they made him sit back there in the pocket and throw the football, and Alabama had nothing to counter. And it's starting to be a problem. I mean, it's one of those games. I remember years ago I went to watch Alabama play. It was in the 80s, and we were playing Southern Miss. And it was by it was almost halftime. We in the it was at Bryant. No, it wasn't. It was in Legion Field in Birmingham, and it was about halfway through the second quarter. You realized that one, Alabama wasn't going to score, and number two, Southern Miss they were going to win the game. It was the crowd, everything, because Alabama once again, like they've done this season, they give you no. It just doesn't seem like a fight back, counter punch, and you go here and we'll do this, and it doesn't seem like the character of the team is to really learn how to dig out of the whatever. it's almost like if they do dig out, it's by chance, but it's nothing where they're, another team gets ahead and you're like, you just know this team's going to crawl their way back into it. I don't see the leadership there.
My thing, coach, with that is you look back. So from 2007 to I go 2017, and then 2020 was a strong year also. But from 2009 to 2017, so that's probably the betterment of at least over 10 years. But the betterment of over 10 years there with Nick Saban, Bama football had a foundation and an identity. You knew exactly what Alabama football was in that time period. You knew when Alabama stepped off the bus, off the plane, off a boat, they were the most physical, disciplined, well-conditioned, relentless, tough, mean, in-your-face, mentally destroy you football team. You knew that. And Nick Saban had those guys trained like assassins. And you had people on the coaching staff that were the exact same way. Scott Cochran, Burton Burns, Bo Davis, Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt. Like, you had generals on that coaching staff that made sure they got into the psychology of the mind of those players to make them that mentally tough and that mentally strong-willed and prepared. You look at this coaching staff here, you don't know what the foundation is for this Alabama team. You don't know what their foundation is. You don't know what their identity is.
Yeah, I was sitting here thinking to myself, I still don't know what is the identity of this team.
You really don't know. I mean, they could make a couple of explosive plays, and that's it, especially offensively. Now, there are moments where they try to run the football a little, but they don't stick to it with much consistency at all. Jalen Milroe, great athlete, but he's not a complete quarterback. He is not a distributor, passer of the football. And we have seen this be a problem now in his second year as a starter. And when you look at the offensive line, what's the identity there? I mean, that group came in, was supposed to be the strength of his team, but this group can't pass block.
They're too big. I mean, they're just too big.
Yeah. I mean, they can't pass block. They're not run blocking the way they need to. And then the biggest thing of all is defensively, while we're seeing some improvement, game by game, the one problem is a running quarterback has hurt this defense. Against South Florida, you had the Byron Brown kid running that hurt. You look at Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, his ability to run, extend plays, that hurt. You look at when Nico Iamaleava started to get it going there in the second half against Tennessee and was able to pull it out. And then, of course, this past week, Jackson Arnold, the ability to run really hurt Alabama.
Hey, Jack, pull up that first set of clips. Start with number 1. All right. And so here's what you got. This was all night, and you can see it from the start. You can see the linebackers right there. Number 1 is keying on the quarterback. All right. And you can see the second linebacker right there is keying on number 8, the running back. But nobody's keying on, look where the ball's going. Look at the guard and tackle. They're pulling. Which way do you think the ball's going? That's right. It's coming right at us. Go to the second one. All right. You can see linebackers out with number 8 like we thought. Okay. Here's the other linebacker. He's key on the quarterback. He's out just like that. But look who's in front of him. Everybody else block away. Look, I mean, it's perfect. Perfect. And then you see right there, here comes the guard, right there on the linebacker. I think that's Lawson or whatever. He's gonna smother him up. And then you can see the other offensive lineman right there in yellow. He's going to straighten and go to the next clip. Boom. There he goes. I mean, it's 10 yards down the field. They did this all night. Go to the next play. I'll show you one more. Okay, here we go. It's going to be the same thing, but they're going to add a little trick in right here. All right. See the slot receiver at the bottom where it says motion? They're going to start motioning him away. But up at the top, you're going to see the tackle and that tight end. They're going to pull and they're going to trap toward the bottom of the screen. Go to number 2. All right. You can see tackle A is on A, B is on B. You can see C is going to block C, D is going to block D. But here comes the tackle and the tight end. Now look at number 21. He's going away, and that linebacker that you see right there at that, what is that, the 26-yard line, 30-yard line. He's already moving, shifting wide. I'd go to the next one. The play, look at where the play's going. The play's going to the bottom of the screen. Here they come. Now that receiver, that motion, he's cutting back. The receiver that was or the running back at the bottom of the screen, here comes number 1 on a stunt. And then look what happens. There's those 2 linebackers. And here comes the guard, the tackle, here comes the tight end. They're going to trap and then go to the next play or the next shot. Well, we skipped one to go back. Yeah. Well, anyway, that may be the last one, but you're going to see that running back. He's going 30, 40 yards upfield. On the next one right here, here's Alabama. First play of the second half right there. Look at it. Second half right there. And then, block the nearest threat. Well, I got a yellow arrow right there at the nearest threat. Now, Milroe, this is a called route. There's no read. There's no anything. He's going to take the snap. He's going to throw it over there to the outside receiver. The inside receiver on the line of scrimmage, all right, you block the nearest threat. Next clip, the guy runs right by him. Next pick. Guy, look at him. There, 6. Misses. Milroe. No read. He's throwing it to number 2, Ryan Williams. Called play. But look at that receiver that number 6 missed. Lack of execution. And then, boom, he's going to catch it, run it for a touchdown. I mean, this was just constant. That, on offense, all Oklahoma did was trap, misdirection, trap. And on offense, it was just lack of execution. Defensively for Alabama, blocked, couldn't tackle the soul. And then last, I think I have the touchdown they called back. Yeah, and you can see right there. All right, ruling football, guys. Last guy on the line of scrimmage is eligible, is an eligible receiver. Okay. Now they used to, y'all remember the old tackle eligible? Go back to that previous one. The tackle eligible, you can see the last guy on the line of scrimmage at the top of the screen is the tackle. And back in the old days, 60, Coach Bryant made that play popular because that tackle at the top of the screen was eligible. And so he'd fake it right and then throw it back because nobody thought offensive lineman's not going to catch the ball. But there's the rule. Last guy on the line of scrimmage is eligible. You can look at the bottom of the screen. There is Ryan Williams on the line of scrimmage, eligible. To go to the next one. All right. And look, here we are right here. You can see he's scrambling. He's getting ready to release the ball. There's Williams. All right. Look at the referee at the 36-yard line at the very bottom of the screen. Ball's in the air. He's scrambling. Go to the next one. And then, boom, all of a sudden, look, Williams is in the end zone. Look, all of a sudden now there's the flag.
It was just bad call right there. But
the last guy on the line of scrimmage is eligible.
Steven, what did you think about that play where the touchdown was called back?
I'm first off, before the flag happened, I'm like, what a catch by Ryan Williams.
Exactly.
I didn't think he caught the ball. And the fact that he caught it, he controlled it all the way through, got a footing. I think he got both feet in. I'm like, what an athletic catch. I'm like, he caught that, and you're thinking, okay, Bama's got some type of momentum. They got some type of confidence now. And then when the flag comes out, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, is it a pass interference? Is it something after the play? And then it becomes a illegal touching, or the guy was covered. I'm like, who was covered? And they go back and
and here's what bothered me. If you're a referee, I mean, that's an immediate call. As soon as the ball snaps, you see it immediately. He's whatever. He's covered. You see it immediately. Ball snap, you throw it. You don't throw it before the snap. It's not a pre-snap penalty. It's after the snap. You throw it immediately. This is the guys almost caught the ball in the end zone. I mean, we're 1, 2, 3, 4 Mississippi into the play, and then he threw. That's why I'm thinking somebody on the sideline was over there just he was covered. He was covered. It made no sense. No, that is an immediate, as soon as the ball snapped, penalty.
Absolutely.
It was not a good night for Crimson Tide Nation. That we could definitely agree on. It was like, it looked like a sure victory, which I told a lot of people last week, just because it looks like a sure victory does not mean it will be. Yeah. Did anybody not learn from that Vanderbilt game?
I'm just saying that I mean, you go into Nashville thinking, oh, it's just Vandy. Bam will be able to smack those guys up. No, this is not Jefferson Pilot Sports Vandy anymore.
No,
and they showed you right then and there that you come in here half stepping if you want to. We gonna black your eye, and Vandy blacked Bama's eye that day.
And then the problem is, like you said earlier, there's no response. There's no response. You punch me in the nose. What am I going to do? Alabama just doesn't seem to have a response to it. And a lot of times, and I'm going to be honest with you now, that comes back to the coaching. What kind of coaching you get? Because players assume, usually the players will take the identity of the staff, the coaches, and that kind of stuff. But right now, Alabama, you punch them in the nose, and I just don't see a lot of response. It takes them, it's like everybody's looking around for somebody, to do something. When it comes down to me.
Exactly. And I go back to earlier this season, Coach DeBoer said something that really struck me odd when he sat there and said, we don't have a killer's mentality right now. Like, Kagan said, we don't have a killer's instinct right now. And I thought, man, when you had Coach Saban in Tuscaloosa, that killer's instinct was the whole foundation.
Yeah.
And now you look at with Coach DeBoer, I understand it's year one, but for him to come out to the national media, some local guys too, but the national media and say, we don't have that killer's instinct, that was a very eye-opening statement.
It is. And you're very, very, very correct on that. That's troubling. I mean, you come in as a new coach, you set the tone. You got to set it. And if that is not the tone, I mean, remember Saban came in and did that fourth quarter program.
Yeah. I mean, Saban literally came in, did the fourth quarter program, did the tough summer conditioning, the 110s, all of that. Saban came in and said, look, everybody else, get out the way. I'm bringing my process. Get out the way. I got this. Y'all just stay over there. I got the football program.
I'll tell you this, too. My father-in-law played at Alabama for Coach Bryant, and he said, and I want to say it was during winter workouts or something, but they would work out, and coaches would take them up in the top of the gymnasium there, and they had buckets all over the place, and it was like the job of the coaches was to make the players work them so hard that they would puke in those buckets and everything. So, I mean, you set the tone as a head coach. And if you don't want to set it, if you want to be the Bill Curry, not the rah, you got to have guys in there that set the tone. Like you said, Cochran, he'd come in there with that little voice and all that kind of stuff and set the tone. You got to have people that you have to have a way in which you get players' attention.
You're right. You have to have psychological motivators on your team. Scott Cochran was one of those guys. Bo Davis was one of those guys when he was here with the defensive line. Burton Burns, as a running backs coach, was one of those guys. Bobby Williams, special teams coach. Bama had guys that came for this program. Sal Sunseri, I called him the Italian Mafia. Sal Sunseri would just say different things to push a button, and players would do stuff they never thought they could do, but Sal Sunseri just said something and pushed a button. Yeah. And that player's out performing at a whole different level. And with this staff, you may have one, possibly two coaches that could push a button and get those guys to play how they want them to play, but it's not like it was in the Saban era where you had several guys on staff that could do that.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I know something that can get us really going for Thanksgiving season and Black Friday, especially for all those that are looking to do some gambling on college football's rivalry week. And here's a message from our friend, Mark Rogers.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
And that's not all. If you went with Steve Merrill's under the radar pick, like week 1, for example, you'd have gone with Pittsburgh beating the spread at 24 points against Kent State. And that, my friends, is a top-notch investment. So if you are looking for some top-notch picks in all college football, go to Mark Rogers, Steve Dace at the Michigan Podcast, Matt Zemek at Trojans Wire, and USC at the Voice of College Football, and Steve Merrill from Wager Talk, and the Under the Radar picks right here on the Voice of College Football Bets. It is an investment for the future, especially if you're a natural gambler in all of college football. Alrighty, everybody, we've got our next guest. He is the creator of E2C Network, and he is a very good friend of the Voice of College Football Network, the one and only himself, Kyle Loomis, helping us discuss the take on the 2024 edition of the Iron Bowl. Kyle, my man, how are you doing?
Doing very well. Very appreciative that you guys could let me come on here and grace your show with a little orange and blue. It needed a little bit of color after all.
I don't know about that orange.
Hey, listen.
They say no color matches orange. Nothing goes well with orange.
Well, here, I'm going to actually get a little scientific with you here. And I have a good friend. I'll give him a shout out, Clint Richardson, that runs the Auburn uniform database. I mean, the man's obsessed with history and uniforms and all that stuff, even beyond Auburn. And there's actually something called a color wheel. And I learned this from him. And if you look in a color wheel, orange and navy are exactly exact across from the wheel. And when that happens, that means they are perfect matches, which is why orange and blue, our specific brand of it, is the best colors in all of college football. I rest my case.
Well, and I know like Auburn wore like some orange alternate uniforms.
Oh, no.
One of the games was in the 1978 22-22 tie against the Georgia Bulldogs. Would you like to see Auburn go back to like alternate uniforms every now and again? Or, I take that as a no.
You are opening up so many doors that
Doug Barfield have them in the.
Oh
no bowl game.
This thing has been so debated. Again, I'm giving my friend a ton of shout outs here. Clint Richardson is the expert on all these things. He's written articles. He's done podcasts with me about it. So just look up orange uniforms Auburn. He's going to come right up to the top. He'll give you the actual history. There are Auburn fans that are very misinformed about all this stuff. I'm not even quite sure I understand it all, but I trust his knowledge on it. To answer your question, Absolutely not. Auburn's uniforms are absolutely perfect, and there's nothing that needs to be changed. We are much bigger and better than having to go with gimmicks. And I would say the same for Alabama too. Now, I think your uniforms are disgusting, but they're classic. They're like you don't need those things. I'm sorry, you got me on a rant that I didn't need to get on tonight.
Sorry,
and
man. It's all good.
You hit a nerve to start off, and that's not even about Auburn and Alabama. That's just
Man, that Oregon and Phil Knight had that mess.
It's so look, it's cool for Oregon. It's their thing. Let them have it. Let's do our thing down here in the state of Alabama. We don't need all those things. Now, we did change our face mask a little bit. That's fine. It's not that big a deal. I kind of like it when the full all white stormtrooper look goes for Auburn on the road, which you guys will most likely see. Well, I don't know if they're going to do the white face mask or not. I hope they do. It's the best look. But anyway, here we are talking uniforms on Iron Bowl week.
Well, might as well have some fun on today's edition of Crimson Tide Live, especially with Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah, we gotta, prep yourselves, folks. For those of you that I'm not in the state of Alabama as my residence, but I will be traveling there to go spend with my in-laws, who are all Alabama fans. So you guys are just getting me ready for what the conversation at the dinner table is going to be like, and me having to explain what has been transpiring this year for Auburn. And boy, is it difficult to explain sometimes.
Well, I'm glad you talked about what's been going on with Auburn this year. Like this year, it was a little bit of coming up short against Cal, coming up short against Oklahoma.
Yep.
Having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day against the Bulldogs. And now you've got a monumental quadruple overtime win over the Texas A&M Aggies, getting them trapped, thinking about, because like Mike Elko, I remember in the press conference this week, he was like, Auburn.
Yeah.
Did that still some kind of nerve for the Tigers? Because I have a feeling it did.
I don't buy into that a whole lot. I think it's fun to talk about for all of us in media and on the internet, and it certainly gets everybody else talking as well. I truly think it was just a slip of the tongue. Now, if it wasn't and he really meant to do that, just maybe as a little passing shot, brilliant on his part because he played it off really well, but it didn't work out for him. And certainly in the stadium, as all the fans were enjoying themselves on the field, they played up there on the Jumbotron. That misspeak, and also a certain other clip from that day with one Nicholas Saban and saying that Auburn is haunted, which it's not a haunting for us. It's magical. But I don't buy into that motivated them. I think Auburn football had just enough motivation within what's been going on this season. The question has been, can Auburn finish a football game against quality opponents? You took care of Alabama A&M. You took care of La Mo. You took care of a few others. By the end of it, Kentucky was well within our control. But in some of these other games that you just rolled off, Auburn was in position to win, and they could not get it done. And I would argue as well that Auburn was had Georgia in a very bad situation at their place. If you look at the score and the way it transpires throughout the game, it looks a little bit not so much that's the story. But if you watch the game, you will see that Auburn was in a position to do something special there had they got out of their own way. So you're correct in saying that it's been just miss after miss after miss. And it looked like it was going to happen against Texas A&M. I was a little worried, I'll be honest with you.
Well, it's one of those scenarios where, like we talked to the Oklahoma guys, and y'all know this as well as we do, that home team, if you give them, you let them stay in it, stay in it long enough, everybody's going to start feeling the vibe, and then the crowd takes over, and Alabama, Texas A&M started feeling those seeds of doubt, and it just snowballs, and it breeds a new life of its own. And both Alabama and Texas A&M got caught right in that trap. But not saying anything bad about Auburn or Oklahoma. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. I mean, just stay in it long enough, stay, and things will happen. So, Auburn and Oklahoma did what they were supposed to do, and Alabama and didn't. Texas A&M didn't. They let the scenario play out. They didn't take care of business.
Yep.
Well, we'll go over a little bit about the 2024 edition of the Iron Bowl. And Stephen M., what's your prediction for the Iron Bowl? What are the keys to victory for Alabama?
Okay, so I have been wrestling with this score idea for a couple of days now, but the keys for Alabama to win, they've got to get off to a fast start offensively. Like you can't go in there sleepwalking into the Iron Bowl. You can't do that. You got to get off to a fast start offensively. And defensively, you got to play gap sound football. You're not going to have Deontay Austin, who's your green dot communicator at Mike linebacker. He's out for the year now with a leg injury that happened against Oklahoma. So right now, Justin Jefferson, the former JUCO linebacker, will be wearing that green dot. And you've got Jihad Campbell, who'll be playing that sting position right across or right next to him. So communication defensively, fitting your run gap, being gap discipline, that's going to be huge to defensively. Offensively, you got to go up to a fast start here. I think it's going to be a very intriguing Iron Bowl. If I had to give a score thought right now, I would go 31-24 Alabama. I think Bama late touchdown in the fourth quarter. Auburn's going to come out. Hugh Freeze is thinking, if I can just get Jalen Milroe to fold like a lawn chair, I got this Iron Bowl. That's what's going through Hugh Freeze's mind. Hugh Freeze is thinking, look, man, I beat a Nick Saban Alabama twice in my time at Ole Miss. I should have beaten him last year if not for some gravedigger play on 4th and 31. Now I get a chance to beat him on the field, dedicated to him, put myself in a bowl game and in whatever else Alabama's trying to do. That's what Hugh Freeze is looking at. But I would go Bama 31-24.
It's going to be a tight one. It'll be the tightest game in Tuscaloosa for quite a while because, like, the last several times the Iron Bowl has been played in Tuscaloosa, it's always been a whipping. But last time Alabama lost to Tuscaloosa was, of course, in 2010. And prior to that was in 2006 on CBS the week before rivalry week.
I remember.
So those are some dark days in Tuscaloosa.
We enjoyed those days.
Oh, man. Well, Steven, what have you got going on Touchdown Alabama this week?
Well, we're just getting everybody prepared here for the Iron Bowl, just going through some different matchups, different personnel looks, what has to be the theme here for Coach DeBoer to kind of get a lot of the fans calm, right? Because right now, the fan base is like, look, if DeBoer falls to Auburn, you're going to have a lot of Alabama Nation ticked off. They're not going to be happy with that. So a lot of the conversation is, what can Bama do going into this game to have itself better prepared, not just to win, but to execute the way it needs to? It's going to be a fun, interesting matchup. Which Alabama team shows up is the question. We're going to be the Alabama team that showed up against MSU, or we're going to be the Alabama team that showed up against Oklahoma. So we'll see.
It's like a stock market, up and down, up and down, up and down. And friends, check out the magic that Stephen M. Smith has on Touchdown Alabama magazine right here on the website down below, and on the links on YouTube and on X, Instagram, and Threads. Tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that Stephen M. Smith has going on every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. All right there on Touchdown Alabama. And you can check him out when he does some top-notch interviews with Mark Rogers himself, and he does some top-notch interviews with Paul Feinbaum. And let's just say, every time I'm watching Stephen M. Smith on the Paul Feinbaum show, he kills it. He is amazing on that show. I mean, it's pretty much one of the few reasons I'll watch the show for the sake of Stephen M. Smith.
You know what? It's fun. It's fun to get, to have Paul in a moment to where you can kind of straighten him out a little bit. Paul, he likes to stir things up, and He likes to cause a little bit of friction, a little bit of chaos. And I come on and I'm able to kind of, calm the man down a little bit. Chill, man. It's going to be all right. Chill out.
Reality.
A little reality, in Paul's world. So it's fun. I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me, man. Y'all take care.
You too. Stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out. Stay away from the cold weather and make sure you got a lot of lawn sleeves around you.
We'll do that. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for coming on, Stephen M.
Absolutely.
And now we resume the rest of the preview of the 2024 Iron Bowl. History could be made for the Tigers. And Alabama is looking to salvage something for 2024. Mm-hmm. And holy Toledo. And I've been noticing some of Auburn Nation, not all of them, but there's like some of them, there's just a few crazies on social media that have just been acting nuts on Hugh Freeze. But I say stick with stability, because I remember Nick Saban said on College Game Day where he chastised Florida for constantly firing their coaches. Mm-hmm. Every time there was a bad day going around, they just threw the baby out with the bathwater. Mm-hmm. I think, and we heard Stephen M. Smith speaking about this a little while ago with Nick Saban, where he said, "Let me do my own thing. Y'all get out the way. Let me work on this."
Yeah, there's certainly been a contingency of fans that choose to make themselves very loud and very vocal, usually in the social media world, about their consternation about Hugh Freeze. And these are the same ones that did it about Brian Harsin. Not saying there weren't reasons to be that. And they're the same ones that did it for Gus Malzahn. So you see what I'm getting at here. These are the people that can't be satisfied, that don't operate in a world of reality. I'm very frank with our viewers and our Auburn fan base about how we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard of fandom, and understand that we can operate, yes, in the world of certain expectations, but also reality of what we chose to make a decision in 2020, which I vehemently disagree with and still do to this day, that set us on this path and gave Hugh Freeze a foundation that was very crumbled. And certainly I go back to this moment when he's hired. He makes his his press conference welcoming him to the Plains. Everything's all hunky-dory. Everybody's new feeling, new coach, and everything's there for him too, in the way he's talking. And I distinctly remember his next press conference, which I believe would have been after signing day, because he had one for that one technically, I guess, but I think it was like a pre-8A one. And you could just tell the look on his face had just completely changed, and the energy level had changed, because the reality had set in at what he had inherited. And he kind of said as much. And that's not a shot at the players, but that's just the state of the program, right? That's the way things were built or left at that point. And so for me, 2 years in, certainly you would hope that we would not be at where we're currently at this season. However, I do see more. A lot of people brought up the comparison where Brian Harsin was in his 2 years, where Hugh Freeze is in his 2 years. There was less to support a Brian Harsin continuation than there was with the Hugh Freeze situation. Yes, a lot of that is recruiting, and it's not just about the recruiting and numbers and stars and rankings. It's about those players that he already has brought in, already getting onto the field and making significant contributions and impacts, to the point where a lot of them are now starting. So you have every right as an Auburn person to be dissatisfied with this season. We all thought it was going to be a lot better, but certainly I think it's time for a little bit of context and a little less emotion when it comes to Hugh Freeze.
Well, Auburn right now, or the last several years, recent years, it's kind of like Alabama in the early 2000s, when we were just expecting the coach come in and, just immediate success, stuff like that. Meaning we, after Stallings, we had Mike DeBose, then we went to Franchione, then we went to Mike Price, then we went to Shula. You know what I'm saying? It was just a constant. Yep. Nobody had any patience at all. And so now, Auburn's kind of in the same boat. I mean, it's kind of like, you had Tuberville, and then an hour to Hugh, and so it's kind of like nobody ever learns. It's the same whatever cycle. They want immediate success, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way. It takes time, and just wanting it right now is who knows? Sometimes it works, but more than likely it's not going to work.
Right. And people will want to point to the 2013 team for Auburn, and they forget Gus Malzahn basically re-inherited his old team. He was gone for a year to head coach at Arkansas State. And I'm the biggest Gus Malzahn fan and apologist there is. But I can even recognize, hey, he walked into a pretty good situation. He literally just came back and didn't have to suffer through that 2012 season. I'm
going to be honest with you, I always liked Malzahn at Auburn. Every year I was never comfortable and even though we had Saban, I was never comfortable with Gus Malzahn because the guy, he offensively, everything, the hurry, and all that kind of stuff, the RPOs, and it was very, very influential at the time. Everybody started following what Gus was, the guy that kind of brought it to the forefront, and then all of a sudden, whatever, and all of a sudden Auburn thinks they got to hire somebody, a Saban, somebody, all this, or around him and stuff like that, and he was fine. They should have just left him alone.
Yeah, and I think what Auburn fans, and you've already touched on this too when you were talking about Alabama's dark days earlier in the 2000s.
Yeah.
You get caught looking across the state to what your rival is doing, and you start playing the compare game. And, well, if we don't hurry up and catch up, then we're going to fall further behind. In doing so, you fall further behind. It's not a miracle because this doesn't shock me. I know I've got orange and blue lights on right now. I got my orange and blue glasses on. I'm biased, but Auburn is a program that is set up to recover very quickly given financial support, the level of care that the fans have. Folks, we were 4-6. We're now 5-6. We were 4-6 coming to the game. Stadium is packed out. Couldn't even tell that. Same thing 2 years ago when we were firing Brian Harsin for Texas A&M again. And of course, the cool feel-good story of Cadillac, all that stuff. So, just to round the thoughts out on this topic, I would also, whether you're talking about Auburn, Alabama, you sometimes just need to sit back and let the cards be laid out. Don't rush and show your hand before, what's the expression in poker, the river comes out there, or the whatever. I'm butchering this. The boat. Thank you. It's been a while since I played poker. So just a little bit of patience, a little bit of time. Certainly this year has its frustrations, and those are warranted discussions, but give him a little bit more time. You'd be surprised what might happen.
Yeah, I think some magic can happen in Auburn with Hugh Freeze, because I thought to myself, they're either going to have, at the time when they were looking to get a new coach, I thought to myself, they either have to get Hugh Freeze or Coach Primetime Sanders.
Oh, man. That still scares me a little bit.
One of those names, either way, Auburn's going to win with one of them. You want to give Nick Saban a hard time, you get one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But
go ahead.
But yeah, so we're looking at the keys to victory.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle, since you're our guest, we're going to let you go first.
Ooh.
Keys to victory for Auburn.
Are we looking for a certain number of these keys or just whatever comes to mind?
Whatever comes to your mind.
Well, let's talk about offense, defense, and special teams, because those are the three facets of the game. Offensively, do not turn the ball over. I know that seems rudimentary. I realize that's just basic football, but that in the first half of the season for Auburn has been their issue. A lot better in the second half, still a few times too many. Some of that has been Peyton Thorne. Some of it has also been players like Jarquez Hunter, which people will never say a cross word about, which is Warren. He's playing really great this whole season, but let's not forget some of the criticism that gets lumped on Peyton Thorne. It goes all the way around. So don't turn the ball over. This is especially important when you're in Tuscaloosa or anywhere on the road. If you turn the ball over on the road, you will lose the game. Period. Said. Done. It happened several times, I believe, in the Alabama-Oklahoma game. You do that, you give more opportunities to make it easier for the advantage that the home team already has, given if you are already the perceived underdog. Defensively, I'd hate to be boring and just say you got to shut down Jalen Milroe because we know that's not the only weapon that Alabama has. But certainly Auburn has done a decent job of containing, not completely stopping mobile quarterbacks. I would press the issue and say that Jalen's a little bit stronger than the typical runners than we have run against at quarterback for other opponents. So I'm not sure how that matchup's going to work out. But certainly, I think limiting explosive plays from Jalen and Ryan Williams and anybody else, I think really honestly, if Auburn gives up 2 explosive plays in this game, and when I say explosive, I'm thinking, 50, 60 plus yards, it's going to get bad. So those have got to be limited to 1, 2, maybe a third. Special teams, we have a unique Alabama, obviously, we've had great fun of making fun of kickers for Alabama for a long time. Certainly, we are taking our lumps this year on that. A lot of it is out of the control. Our regular kicker, Allen McPherson, has some really bad health issues that have kept him off the field, tried to come back. Hometown kid, Towns Magoo, has just struggled. I'm a former kicker myself. I know you look at me, you're like, duh. You don't look like a linebacker or anything like that. So I feel for the kid. He's struggling in it. You hate it because he's a hometown kid. So a new walk-on has come in from Birmingham Southern and has done pretty decently in the last 2 games. So I would say the key special teams is when you get the opportunity to make your field goals, you've got to make them. Can't have any missed field goals. And I know I'm setting up a very specific set of parameters that are very easy to fall apart for Auburn, but I think that's the case. Auburn can only afford so many mistakes with the team that it has this year. If they don't make those certain number of mistakes, they are going to win the game because they have that ability on offense and that ability on defense. But can they get out of their own way? It's probably the biggest key if we're just going to kind of tie it all together.
Well, Johnny, what are the keys to victory for the Alabama Crimson Tide on Saturday?
Well, I'm going to start with Auburn. If I were Auburn, I would, number one, I'd just follow Oklahoma's offensive game plan. I'd, do a lot of pulling guard, pulling tackle, trapping, misdirection, stuff like that. I mean, back in the old days, we would teach, linebackers, read the offensive lineman. They'll take you to the play. And now you have, linebackers and the reading backs and the quarterback. And so that just opens up a lot of, what Oklahoma has done, what's happened to Alabama several times. And so if I were Auburn, if Alabama's going, just read, quarterback, read back, and then let themselves get trapped, then I would do that. I would follow that same game plan. And but if I were Alabama, I mean, obviously it's Alabama, I don't know what they're going to do offensively. I mean, if I were Auburn defensively, it would be easier. It's easier for me to tell Auburn what to do than it is for me to tell Alabama what to do. If I'm Auburn, I'm going to do, a lot of what Oklahoma did on defense. I'm going to make Jalen Milroe beat us. Maybe he'll get a big play or two, but don't let that, maybe they'll jump up 14-0, but don't let that deter what you're doing, change what you're doing, stick to it. I mean, make the guy throw, and, stick to that rationale. I think if Alabama can come out and, maybe get a big play, maybe a long drive. I mean, the first quarter of the Oklahoma game was not that bad. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that bad. Alabama forced a fumble, that kind of stuff. But then as a game, because there was no, not much scoring, anything, that kept Oklahoma, the fans in the game, and they kept getting more and more fired up. Alabama's just got to get the crowd involved, have some success early. Auburn, you want to get the crowd out of the game, which means long drives and things to that nature. So do what Oklahoma did, let Peyton Thorne run it, and then pop a couple of passes. I mean, Coleman out there, he's like a Ryan Williams. He's going to be hard to cover, and so to me, it's just weird. It's easier to tell Auburn what to do than it is to tell, for me to say, you got to do this, because Alabama gives you nothing. You can't go week after week after week and oh, they're a great passing team. Or week after week after week, Alabama's a great running team. And you can't say that about Alabama. You can't say they're great passing, great running. You don't know. It's bizarre. But one thing I will tell Alabama, I mean, your season's on the line. I don't think they'll make the playoffs with 3 losses. I don't think they should. But who knows what these brainiacs and created this model. But Alabama, I mean, it's your season. Either you want to do something special or you just want to go home and get in the portal and go transfer and we'll try it again next year and I'll make my money here and I'll go make something somewhere else and all this other kind of crap.
And we got our recruiting class for 2025. So we've got Keelan Russell just sitting there waiting in the stands. So that's going to be cool.
I don't even pay attention to recruiting anymore. I mean, it's pointless. Why? I mean, if I'm going to develop a team, I'm going to go to the portal. I'm going to beg, transfer, blah, blah, blah. Why am I worried about an 18-year-old? I'm going to build my team with 20, 21-year-olds. I said this at the start of the season. I'll still say it here at the end of the season. You will see a team that will win a national championship without a single freshman on the roster.
You might.
I will say it. And it'll happen, and then y'all can.
Here we go.
This guy knew what he was talking about. Screw you don't need a freshman.
Kyle, my friend, you got a question from our buddy Will ND, and he asked, do you think Deuce will start next in 2025?
This is the most frequently asked question I get right now. And my answer about the quarterback situation in general, and I'll answer it specifically, is I have no clue. They could go 50 different ways on who's going to start next year. But what I have said, and it's probably the only statement that I will stand on, is that I do not think Deuce Knight will start next year. And that has nothing to do with Deuce Knight not being up, his talent level not matching up to what the expectations are. You just don't see very many true freshmen come in and start. Most notably, Bo Nix did, and it was pretty successful. Wasn't the most successful, but it was a pretty good start. So there is some history there for that. This transfer portal, as you were talking about, Coach, just throws a monkey wrench in everything. And I think there's a segment of Auburn fans that want Deuce Knight to start, and there's a segment that want a transfer portal quarterback to come in and be the next savior, the Cam Newton effect. It wouldn't shock me if somebody who's currently on the roster, Walker White, Holden Garner, Hank Brown, starts next year. If I had to put my money on someone in that group of 3, it'd be Walker White, because I think there's a lot of leadership potential I see him. Not to say that there's not in Hank or Holden. Holden's been around for a while. I get the sense that he has kind of just accepted his role in the quarterback room as that a backup and a person like that. And I hate to say that about it because I never want to take away anybody's potential, but I think we're kind of at that point with him. So that's kind of why I remove him. Going to Deuce, though, I guess to bring it all around, I'm kind of talking circles here. I do not think that he will start next year. That's assuming he does sign on the dotted line, and nothing's ever a given these days. But I don't think that's a cause for concern for Auburn fans or for him. I would much rather someone come and spend a year learning, growing, getting used to the college game and college speed. Because as great as your Cam Coleman's and your Ryan Williams are, and they look great in these moments, they're still learning to get up to the speed of the game. And that's why sometimes you see like a Cam Coleman who had a great start against inferior opponents and then kind of had a quieter middle of the season, have this much better end of the season that he's had with these last 2 games that he's had, because he's getting used to the speed. He's learning. Coach has talked a lot about with Cam Coleman. I know we're getting into wide receivers now, but he's talked a lot with him about learning to do better on his intermediate routes, pass blocking, things like that, becoming a more well-rounded wide receiver and not just the go up and get the ball guy. Go ahead.
Here's a monkey in the room that throws everything to chaos.
Yeah.
Do you think Coleman will stay around, or do you think Auburn will be outbidded?
Who knows?
He'll want to play somewhere else. I mean, you can't depend on it anymore. And why
I
would
know.
why would I depend on a high school freshman just out of high school quarterback when I can go out there and get me somebody that's, whatever? Why would I want a 18-year-old freshman?
Yeah. And I like this comment right here. It says it builds a family keeping freshmen on the team. If it can work, and Hugh is trying to do that, he's trying to do that. Maybe to his own demise. Some people have gone out and have criticized Dabo Swinney for his, very vocal disinterest in going heavily into the transfer portal. Now he's doing all right since then, but Hugh seems to be a little bit in that vein. If there's a good opportunity out there and the money's right, I guess we could have a transfer portal go back. I know it's all frustrating, and that's why I do not spend my time worrying about the decisions of 17 and 18-year-olds that much, or the transfer portal decisions. Whoever's on my roster is whoever's on my roster, and they got my support regardless. And I know that's cliche and kind of boring to say, but it's the way I've learned to live my life.
It's sad. I mean, it's sad we're to this point. We used to be able to make sense of it, and we used to be able to talk about the freshmen coming in and recruiting and all. We can't anymore.
Yep.
I mean, it's all free agency. It's all, the only thing we like is trade. Mid-season trade. Get rid of this guy. Let's bring in some. We've been talking about that on here. I mean, it's just. I don't trust it. I think eventually it's going to be the demise. And nobody can predict anything anymore. There's no stability. I mean, if you want chaos, then this is what you're going to get. But, and then all of a sudden these guys are making all this money. I quit watching Major League Baseball. Well, I don't want to watch some guy swing a bat. It's going to make $30 million 1 year. And then a basketball, he's going to shoot a ball or whatever, and he's going to make $50 million in a year. Well, I don't want to watch that. I don't care. I mean, they don't care. They got guaranteed money. So, now we got that model with 18-year-olds. It's the only thing I have said, to be honest with you, Kyle, is I have said this. The way to end it is back like they did us when I played, is if you're going to transfer, you got to sit out a year.
Yeah.
That's the only way or it's just going to be, free agency, trade, blah, 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 and that kind of stuff. And people are going to lose interest because it's just not fun anymore. Now, how do we know how much they're making?
It is got a lot of frustrations around it. And I certainly have my own opinions about it, which very much align with what you're saying here. Certainly there's I think a lack of forethought in how this went about. And I think that's why there's so much frustrations there. And I think the frustrations are on both sides, the fans and the players too, as well. But how about this? It ain't working in a sustainable way right now, and it needs to be fixed, and somebody needs to take the leadership to fix it.
Well, the NCAA, every year they lose more and more control, more and more credibility.
Yep.
These conferences they're going to bail from the NCAA. They're just shooting themselves in the foot every day. Conferences will just bail. And, what about the SEC? The money's there. We'll just create our own super whatever, and the national championship will just come directly out of the SEC.
Well, you're looking at that right now with the Big Ten and the SEC, kind of having discussions together about how, big issues in college football. You're kind of seeing a amateur NFL being formed between all the major programs, which are kind of in the SEC.
That's why, when people say, "Oh, Indiana's gonna get left out because they lost Ohio State," they're not. It's not gonna happen. They beat Purdue. They're in. That's simple. Yeah. Because of that, because it just looks like the SEC and Big Ten are going against one another, but really they're just smiling, and they got the little Wall Street suspenders and the cigars smiling and all that.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask both of you this. You think if Alabama wins, you think they would make the top 12, the playoff with 3 losses? Do you think they should? Well, no, not should. Do you think they will?
I haven't looked at the rest. Shocker, Auburn fans haven't spent much time looking at the playoffs this year. I will admit that I haven't spent enough time looking at who is on the bubble, so to speak, terminology we used to only use with basketball and March Madness. I feel like you have to have a really good case to be in with 3 losses. 4, you're out. I mean, that's just you. If somebody makes it at 4, then we got to fix something. 3, you got to have the best case, meaning everybody else with 2 losses looks terrible. That's out there, or they just haven't played a schedule that's worth up to it. It wouldn't shock me if Alabama makes it with 3 losses. I'll say that much, because it's good TV. And I hate to say it to you, but that's what this is all about, money. I hate to be cynical, but I'm not taking anything away from Alabama by saying that.
That's not cynical. That's just reality.
Yeah.
Slap you in the face. Duh.
Will says it will depend on if they put Clemson or Alabama higher.
It'll be
No, I don't think we should be in the top 12, because I mean, we only scored 3 points against a bad Oklahoma team. It's not like we went up against a Bud Wilkinson Oklahoma team. We went up against a team fighting for bowl eligibility and lost, didn't even score a touchdown. We had a failure to communicate, as that prison warden from Cool Hand Luke says. And
Alabama doesn't have a lot of fight when they're behind. They just don't have enough grit. They have. I mean, they just slap in the face. You know, they don't have any grit in their gut. I don't know. I haven't seen it all year. If they're out front and running, I got lucky against Georgia. They got bailed out against Georgia.
I mean, we looked like we were recovering from eating 50 eggs in an hour. That's how bad it was.
Cool Hand Luke.
Yep. Old drag line.
Too much success can sometimes breed mediocrity.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not always the time, but it makes it so much easier to seep in there. And then you can also do it the same way if you start looking, like we've talked about previously, looking across the state or playing the comparison game. You shoot yourself in the foot. So there's 1,000 ways to lose.
True. And in the AP poll, we're 13th. Clemson is 12th, but the real rankings that are coming on tomorrow night, I feel like it's either going to be us or we're going to be seeing Clemson in the top 12.
Who's Clemson? Clemson plays South Carolina this week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
that's a dangerous team. They better take that one seriously.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, you better take South Carolina seriously, or else you're screwed.
And Georgia's got
Georgia Tech on Black Friday. It's not the first time they've played on Black Friday.
Some of these rivalries. But Lord, come on, Vandy. Come on, Vandy. Come on, Vandy. Come on, Pavia. One more.
Well, Austin, if you're still here, you know the quote I always say: don't ever put yourself in a position where you need somebody to win or lose for you. And unfortunately, we have put ourselves in that position. Yeah. With that being said, we're going over to the score predictions. Kyle, you're our guest. You go first.
Well, y'all are putting me not on the spot, but I normally reserve my score predictions to later in the week, so you guys are getting exclusive here, I guess.
Oh, nice.
I will say to my viewers,
I'm gonna be honest with you. All of us got it wrong last week. Everybody picked Alabama. So don't worry about it.
I will tell my viewers, if some of over here visiting, that I reserve the right over on our show to change this prediction if I see fit. So here's how I have kind of started tackling these things, and especially with this game. I go back to what my predictions were at the beginning of the season, and my prediction was a close loss for Auburn in Tuscaloosa, given the context of how unsuccessful in recent years Auburn's been in Tuscaloosa. That was with the understanding, or what we thought was going to be understanding, that Auburn was going to be much better. And here we are. I will also say that Alabama has not lived up to the expectations I think all of us had, as you guys have already kind of expressed here tonight. But both have been kind of, those unmet expectations have been proportionally the same, have gone down. So I find them basically in the same, if that makes sense, in the same place opinion wise about where I would kind of place them and how they stack up. Just they're both lower down. They went down together. So we basically have the same scenario here. So the question becomes, have I seen enough from Auburn in the second half on the road to feel good about this game, or better or worse or whatever? I look at that Kentucky game. Kentucky is not formidable this year, but frankly, the way Auburn was performing, you got to take anything you can get. Winning on the road in the SEC is not easy, as we've seen time and time again this year. That's got to give you a little solace if you're an Auburn fan. The ability to get the offense a little bit more consistent, when I say consistent about scoring, has been good. The defense has also risen up. This game against Texas A&M was a little bit of an anomaly for them, given how they've been improving throughout the year. I think all that puts Auburn on more of an upward trend going into this game. And I would put Alabama, I don't want to say a downward trend, but it's just not going the way it needs to go for them. So what I think we have here is the makings of a classic Iron Bowl again. And thankfully, one in Tuscaloosa that will be a classic one and not a blowout as it has been. I'm going to say 31-23, Alabama wins in Tuscaloosa.
Wow.
31-23. And I think it'll be one of those where Auburn's probably got a shot to make this a game at the end, and they finally did it last game, but some of those old habits will creep back in. Call me a little bit of a pessimist or a realist this year, but it was nice to see them get that monkey off their back this week. It's a tough thing to do in Tuscaloosa, though.
If Auburn was to get the Tuscaloosa monkey off their back, there'd be a lot of celebrating in Jordan-Hare. Quite a lot. And all that talk about Hugh Freeze being the hot seat, all that stuff would go away, regardless of how they do in the bowl game. Because it would be, we did something we couldn't do since 2010.
Yep.
Beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa.
Yep. That's what gave Brian Harsin some more time, was ending the curse in Baton Rouge. And I think that was everybody thought was going to be the turning point. So I think Hugh needs one of those turning points. Does it come this week? I don't think so, but I sure wouldn't be shocked if it did happen. It's been a fun year of college football, so you really can't take anything as at face value these days.
No. Johnny, it's your turn for the score
No,
prediction.
I'm gonna let you go first.
All right.
What you got?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've been telling a lot of people all season long, watch out for Auburn. I get it. They were sloppy against Cal. They fell short against Oklahoma. They came up short against Missouri. But they're always going to play their best against Alabama. And I know we've got that win streak in Tuscaloosa. But here's the thing. Auburn will bring their A game against the Crimson Tide. The Iron Bowl is one of those rivalries where you take the records out, you take the stats out. It's basically about who wants it more.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a tight one, friends. And where I've got it is Alabama 28, Auburn 24. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. It would not surprise me if Auburn was to upset Alabama. And it's not going to surprise me if Alabama wins. I mean, this is one of those games that you can't really be sure who's going to win this one.
Well, and that makes it such a great matchup and a great game, and continues to prove why this is the greatest rivalry in college football and maybe sports too.
All right, so I'm on show how great a prognosticator I am. All right, I'm gonna predict this because I'm gonna go against the grain, because every time I predict something this season, it doesn't happen. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be a rout. Alabama's gonna beat the living hell out of Auburn. It'll be 35-3.
Wow.
That's my name, and I'm sticking to it.
Just throwing caution to the wind.
I've been wrong all season long.
Can't hurt me anymore, right? Right.
Like Wile E. Coyote trying to catch the roadrunner. He's got that face. Look,
I've tried to be intelligent and smart. Third down efficiency and penalties. That ain't got me anywhere. So I'm just going, Alabama, they'll figure out, they'll get on there, whatever, and do their little. And then, hell, the next week they'll be in the playoffs, maybe, and they'll get the crap beat out of them. That's me.
Well, gentlemen, before we end the show and we tell everybody where they can find each of us, Kyle, what are your top 5 Iron Bowls of all time?
That's a great question. I actually really struggled with this, not because it's hard to find options, but I when I do a top 5, I try to kind of balance it between what's probably the most popular top 5 you can make, but also personal interest. I'm gonna bury the lead right here. I think that's the expression. I'm gonna tell you what number one's a kick 6. I was there for it. That's just what it is. Okay. I mean, I think we all can understand and appreciate that.
Oh,
But number 5 for me is actually going to be a loss, believe it or not, because it was my first Iron Bowl, 2009, first Iron Bowl that I ever attended in
on
person.
Black Friday night.
On Black Friday. That, if you remember that game, it was Gene Chizik's first Iron Bowl, and even though Auburn was in control for a lot of that game, Alabama led if I remember correctly, a pretty decent drive to win it in the end, with like 2 minutes left or something like that. So it was a great game. Great atmosphere, and I couldn't have asked, other than a win, a better start to my tenure of being able to attend Iron Bowls in person. So 2009 for me is kind of that out of left field. 4, I've got 1982, even though I wasn't alive for it. It's hard to knock Bo over the top. I mean, that's legendary. And
I remember watching that. Man.
I was about to say, because if you watch the documentaries on it, they just set it up so much as this legendary, the end of Bear Bryant's career, the rise of Pat Dye. It's just so many great storylines there. Number 3, the first one in Auburn, 1989. This one is more of a connection with my father, just because of
Bill Curry.
Yes, with the connection. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I actually have an Alabama picture, believe it or not, up in here in my room. It's Auburn and Alabama with together prayer warriors, like in a huddle together. And I believe it's at that game. I could be mistaken on that, though. Number 2.
Was Reggie Slack the quarterback?
Yes.
So, I think it was Reggie Slack.
I'm going to get my Auburn card taken from me if I get that wrong, but I believe you're correct.
Okay.
And number 2, the comeback. The comeback is one of the most epic things that I've ever witnessed in my life, not in person, but I literally went out at halftime with everything that I thought we had built that season on the line and just stood out there. Literally, I lived in downtown Auburn at the time. And so I walked out onto College Street there, looked at Timmer's Corner, and just like, I'm about to have this all ruined, because they were looking for an excuse to remove Auburn with the whole Cam Newton scandal and all that stuff, and that you knew that was going to be it, with getting embarrassed in Tuscaloosa. And it was just like the sun opened up, and it was amazing. And then I don't need to say anything about the kick 6. I'm not going to belabor.
The Cam game, I just remember that ball, that fumble, running.
Yes.
Just running. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it was just, you knew.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every game has that
Moon
moment.
Stars are aligned.
Right. Every game has that moment where you point back to, and that's the moment it changed. And some people would say, probably for the 2019 one, where Zacoby McClain intercepted that weird pass that got thrown by Alabama in the end zone and ran it all the way back, even though it was still back and forth the other game. That was when the momentum shifted and Auburn was in control of the back and forth more so than Alabama. So whether we're talking about the Iron Bowl, whatever, there's always those singular moments, and I think that's a great one as well.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny, what's your top?
Jack, you go.
All right. Well, honorable mention for me is 1964, because that was the first Iron Bowl on television. And also that was where it was the first Alabama-Auburn game where it was called the Iron Bowl, because Shug Jordan was like, oh, this is the Iron Bowl right here, fellas. This is the Iron Bowl.
Yeah. My father-in-law played in that game.
Oh, yeah. And there's that. Oh, yeah. And we had that famous kickoff return by Ray Ogden where he just raced to the length of the field for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Number 5 for me, I'm going to have to go 2023. Last season, 4th and 32. Holy crap. That
4th and 31.
Oh, 4th, 31.
A little bit longer than that.
You know, You know that highway that runs through Alabama, Highway 431,
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
from Huntsville all the way down.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jack. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Number 4 was the bow over the top, the goal line dive in 1982. Game-winning touchdown by Bo Jackson. And this was basically personal for Bo Jackson because he got turned down by Alabama. And Bear Bryant was like, if you go to Auburn, we're going to beat you 4 straight years. And he's starting as a freshman, leads the Auburn Tigers to victory against Alabama, snaps that losing streak that dated back to 1973 at the time. And I believe Keith Jackson was calling the game at that time.
Oh yeah. Oh Nelly,
Oh,
Yep. I remember that. Oh, Nelly.
Carrollton, Georgia.
The Alabama Crimson Tide against the Auburn Tigers on ABC Sports.
That was pretty good.
Oh, thank you. I did my best on these impressions. One of these days, I'm going to have to show y'all my Joker Mark Hamill impression.
That's a pretty good one right there if you can pull that one off.
Oh, certainly, my boy. I could pull it off. Holly!
Wow, that was not bad. I'm going to be honest with you.
Thank you. I do it on the side every now and
There
again,
you
voice
go.
impressions. But number 3 for me, the kick from 1985, Van Tiffen, game winner. Boom. That was huge. I've been kind of torn on number 2, number 1. Number 2 for me, kick six. That was a classic. And I'll be honest with you, gentlemen. When I was writing down my preseason predictions for Alabama and Auburn, I had Auburn 5-6 going into the game. I had them beating Alabama because I felt like they were going to spoil national title hopes, but I had Alabama at 10-1. One of these days, I'm going to have to show y'all my past.
You ought to be honest with you. You ought to be right. That's pretty good.
I did my best. When I'm right about something, I let people know it. When I'm wrong about something, I let people know it. It's my job. And
Well, I'll go through mine. All right, number 5. And Kyle, you mentioned this earlier, and it's number 5, and I'm gonna tell you why, because it was in Birmingham, one of the final years at Legion Field, and I actually stormed the field. It was Coach Gene Stallings' win versus Auburn in 1990. That was a great one.
Ooh.
And then number 4 was 84 was Wrong Way Bo.
Oh, Al Michaels called that game.
Yeah, when Brent Fullwood, and Bo,
Yep.
evidently Bo went the wrong way, that kind of stuff. Number 3 would have been 1981. Sit there and watched it. Bear Bryant set the record. The 315, Amos Alonzo Stagg. He set that record. I was watching that game. Who knows? A year later, he was retiring, and 13 months later, he died. And then number 2 was what we just talked about last year, the 4th and 31. And then for me, number 1, because I was watching on TV, and because there was no timeouts, no anything, was Van Tiffen running out there in 1985, lining up and kicking that. No timeouts, no anything. Ran right out there and just nailed it.
Nailed it.
That was that was a great one right there. Now I know I didn't notice. Now I'm part of. I don't have any fond memories of Auburn beating Alabama. Hell with that. I don't give a crap about that. That's heartache to me. So I live through that kind of stuff, but I'm reliving Alabama's. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely heartache. It's just for me that 2009, because you grow up being told this by my late father, who is the reason I'm an Auburn fan, and that's his picture that I was talking about up in here. And why I always asked him, why don't you put Alabama in your office? You raised me to be an Auburn fan. And he's like, because some things are bigger than the rivalry. It shows that we can come together in the most deepest of moments, as much as we don't like them. And so for me, I grew up hearing all these stories and watching it on TV. And then when I stepped foot into Jordan-Hare for that 2009 game and just felt what an Iron Bowl feels like, I said, why have I not done this sooner? And so that's why, to me, it's not even about the loss and the gut-wrenching feeling of that. It's just that I got to experience the greatest rivalry in sports. I'm going to stop not saying it. It is what it is, the greatest rivalry in sports.
Now, I would put a honorable mention to, because I was there, was Franchione at Auburn pulling that. Remember that one? Franchione, what was that, 2003?
Yes.
Franchione was 2001, 2002.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Franchione pulled that upset down there. I was at the game. And you know who I met before the game?
Who's that?
Who?
Joe Namath.
Broadway Joe.
Oh, Broadway Joe was there at the game. Met him before the game. Had a little conversation. He signed a picture for me. But I remember that one. We were all sitting there and what was it? 31-6, Jack.
31?
It was weird.
It was a weird score.
What'd you say?
It's a weird score like that.
It was unbelievable.
31-7.
There, I knew it was close to that.
Who was that running back that he just a lifetime game. Never heard from him since. It was some running back.
Santonio Beard.
Yeah, that's him. I remember that. Yeah,
well, that is.
Who would have thunk it? You go there. So anyway,
yeah.
All right.
01 was sloppy that year for us, but my number one game was the 1948 Iron Bowl, the resumption of the Iron Bowl after 41 years of nobody playing each other. The state of Alabama was like, you know what? We're sick and tired of you schools not playing one another. You're going to play one another, or we're taking your scholarship money.
Yeah,
Ever since
it was an act of the state legislature.
Yep.
It was an act, and it was they're going to play.
Which is why this is the greatest rivalry, because hatred runs deep even to the point where we won't play each other.
Take the lawmakers. Think about that. Lawmakers had to come in.
Like we didn't play each other World War One in the era of World War One, Great Depression, World War II. I mean, good grief, that was bad.
Yeah.
But Kyle, you're a magician on E2C Network. I mean, you're a go-to for Auburn athletics.
Well,
like I often call you the Auburn equivalent of Corey Brada.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, because that's what you are, my friend.
Well, appreciate that. Yeah, we try to do our best to give. That's why we call the little other tagline the Auburn experience, because we're not going to ignore that sports and football is king, and it's the reason that people usually come into the doorway. But it's so much more than that for us. I mean, we have got a big contingency of Auburn band people that come by because we put the shows up for them, and we're going to give you the most well-rounded Auburn experience that we can. The fun little tagline I always say is, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do.
There we go. What magic have you got going on this week, good buddy?
Oh, man. Well, start in just a little while, actually. We got the Maui Invitational with Auburn basketball performing, yes, but playing in that for the next 3 nights. We'll have post-game shows. We will have on Friday at some time, I'm not sure yet because I'll be traveling, a preview of Auburn and Alabama with our normal audience that we have that likes to have a little participatory show where they can interact and make predictions, not just about the score and things like that. And post-game show after that, win or lose, sad or happy, we're going to break it down, talk about it, have therapy or celebration, one or the other. So it's a busy, busy week here.
Well, I can tell you this. You want to make sure you tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that Kyle Loomis is creating on E2C Network.
I appreciate you saying that.
Well, you're welcome, man. I mean, you came on here, and I'm making sure I'm promoting you, man. That's my job. And Johnny, what have you got going on this week, good buddy?
Well, my good friend Bill Burr is coming to stay with me for a couple of days. Y'all know Bill?
I know the name, I feel like.
Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Anyway, he's going to hang out. We're going to talk trash, relive memories. So that's it. Other than Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Eat some turkey, ham.
Spend some time with family.
Kyle, you eat ham or turkey down there?
It's both Okay.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
No
I
complaints
will.
from me. I'll be having some turkey, daddy mac and cheese, stuffing, and so much more.
Hey,
Okay,
Kyle,
man.
y'all have some deviled eggs?
Oh, now we're getting a little too far with it. All right, that's I can't do the deviled eggs. I know
Neither
that
can
makes
I.
me
Dang
that
it. Yeah, that makes
I
you an
know.
Auburn fan. I know,
Yeah, listen.
don't eat it.
I knew I had good instincts. Kyle. You and I are a lot alike in that regard.
I can't do that. I will do a lot of other Southern dishes, but if you need to take my Southern card away from me because I won't do the deviled eggs, then I'll gladly hand it over.
I get a lot of crap for that too from time to time. Like, you don't like deviled eggs? Like, nope, sorry.
Can't do it.
Just looks nasty.
Well, let me ask you this. Well, last question. You do cranberries?
Yes,
Yeah.
cranberry salad.
Okay.
Have you ever done cranberry salad
All right,
before?
we'll let you back in.
No, seriously. In this, I didn't really ever have that before at Thanksgiving. It was always there. I never ate it. But then my mother-in-law makes this what she calls cranberry salad, and it's like maybe it's similar to what you're talking about. And I've done the traditional as well, but it's like this perfect. And I'm gonna sound real bougie when I say this, but palate cleanser in the middle of like servings. And so you just put like a little dollop of it on your plate in the middle of you're going for your next round of maybe this time ham if you had turkey the last time. It just kind of gets you reset and go because it's really cool. It's really refreshing. But yes, I will do the cranberry stuff.
Wait. I'm talking about the cranberry that comes in a can.
Oh no, well, I mean, I've done that before. I've tried that.
Okay.
And it's fine. But I think for me, when I think of the cranberry stuff at Thanksgiving, it's this cranberry salad stuff that my mother-in-law makes, who is like changed my world at Thanksgiving now that I have that to kind of reset myself for the next round, you know?
There you go. And of course, you can check me out on my personal channel on Jackson Johnson 979, where I create some magic with Will and D on the college basketball recap preview show. And I also create some magic with Sports Talk with Austin on the Pits Analysis show, which is moved up to tomorrow night due to, well, Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. And we got the final whistle coming up after all the games have ended, as usual, on Saturday night. And you can also check out my show, The Jacksonian, including my latest episode with Carter Bryant from Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC, and Power Hour NFL. And let me tell you something. We've got some more episodes coming up for you. We've got some wonderful guests coming up for you on that show as well. And, of course, you can also check out updates involving not just my personal stuff, but on Alabama at the voice of college football on X at Jackson VOCFB and on Instagram and threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. And of course, you can become a Crimson Faithful member for $2.99 a month on Alabama at the voice of college football, where you will have a loyalty badge next to your name, custom emoji to use in the comments and live chat, and you get a member shout out. And for $4.99 a month, you will get priority replies to comments and access to monthly hangout with guys like us by becoming a Saban disciple. And for $9.99 a month, you can connect on social media with us by becoming a Bear Bryant legend, and you can give out content requests of any kind. It could be recruiting, it could be interviews, it can be anything you want it to be. We will not let good or bad internet stop us. We will not let sleet, snow, rain, tornadoes, bad weather of any kind put a stop to us. We will make sure we fulfill your content request. Your investment is important to us. That we can promise you. And of course, if you love top-notch college football takes, go to the Voice of College Football X account where you can get top-notch discussion, debate, and analysis with no off-season. Oh, well, you know, we're right here. We're breaking a fourth wall inside a 16th wall, inside a 64th wall, inside a 248th wall. And there's the Ohio State Primetime Live show, Mizzou Live. Our good buddy Matthew Miller is on right now doing the A&M Hate Week for Texas Longhorns Live. Our buddy Mark Rogers. Oh, well, you know, Big 12 Live, a new show. Check it out. And don't forget to check out Ole Miss Live on the Voice of College Football, where you got Leanne Herring and Ruby Dwyer bringing the magic. Instead of this Wednesday, it's going to be moved up to this Tuesday because, once again, Thanksgiving, as they give out the Egg Bowl preview. And I'll tell you something, it's going to be a wild ride. And of course, you can shop on Amazon using the link below. You don't need to buy the product display. It doesn't cost you a penny, and you get the same shopping experience. And with that being said, we wish you all a good night. And to like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you do not miss another video. And we'll catch you next time. Stay safe, stay warm, stay inside. It's cold out. Roll Tide, everybody.
War Eagle.
And just remember what what my daddy told me. Keep it between the ditches.
Agreed. Good night, everybody.